Okay, back with Gerald Salenti. So, Gerald, the international stakes in this World War III prelude, this run-up, are obviously larger than the average person here in the U.S. knows, because the media is not talking about 30 Yakont missiles. These things are incredible. If you haven't seen one take off, I'll send you a video you can take a look at. It's the world's most deadly anti-ship missile. It'll send the George Herbert Walker Bush 6,000 crew members right down to the bottom of the Mediterranean with how many nuclear bombs on board, the nuclear reactors that are used to propel the ship. These missiles are unstoppable. You have about a second and a half, according to Joel Skousen, after detection to take action and stop them. Something coming at you at 2,000 plus miles an hour doesn't happen. So we've got some major players here now who are up on the table, not sitting in the background in the smoke-filled room. How do you look at it? How does it seem to you?
Well, let's put some other pieces together. We talked about the two explosions that happened in
right.
Iran.
There's a war already underway in Iran.
The drone being
clearly
brought down.
Yeah.
Now the sanctions. Let's think about the sanctions that the United States has imposed. Iran is the third largest oil supplier in the world, behind Russia and Saudi Arabia. All of a sudden now, a lot of their oil, I believe 20 to 30% of it goes into Europe.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Start cutting out a country that's already in economic straits and start cutting out their market. 30% is a big take. So, for example, Greece. Greece gets a good chunk of their oil from Iran. Not with the loan sharks in control. The word's already gone out to the Greeks that you're not going to buy Iranian oil or anybody else in Europe. So now what you're doing is you're starving them. It's an act of war by not allowing them to sell what they have in other countries.
Right.
And they're going to take it as an act of war, as we're one day away, by the way, after Pearl Harbor. And when you think about Pearl Harbor, you know, there are a lot more sides to the one-sided story that we hear.
Many.
And one of them is they froze Japan out of the oil markets and steel, and that's what they needed, that island that was kind of like the China of today, manufacturing like crazy and undercutting the markets. So what you're looking at, again, in putting the pieces together, it's Syria and Iran. They're going after Iran through Syria. That's my belief. Iran is going to come to the protection of Syria.
Mm-hmm.
Something is going to happen, I believe, that's going to focus the world on Iran. And the Syria element will be forgotten, but that is going to be the trigger. And that's why it's so important to watch this so closely.
Mm-hmm.
And where we're looking at this unraveling, there is no way of salvaging the economic crisis. There's just no way of doing it.
No.
And so what we're looking at, as I said, in the first quarter of the new year, in economic martial law. Now let's put in place some other issues and events that have just happened. As you well know, what's the number of that Senate bill? Is it
1867? Yeah. Yes.
What, was it 1687 or?
1867.
1867. And what that bill does, of course, it permits the military taking over roles that were reserved for the police through the Posse Comitatus Act.
Correct.
And then we also have this new 1867 permits the military to also come crashing through the offices of the Trends Research Institute.
Oh, your office, my office, are you kidding?
Your office, everybody out there that speaks out, grab us, take us away and blow our brains out or torture us until we're dead, and we don't have the right to a trial, to a judge, or a jury. This is America.
That's right.
And it passed all of you wimpocrats out there. Well, I doubt they're listening to your station. All you liberal weenies out there. This passed the Senate by 93-7.
Yep.
I'm mentioning this because all the pieces are in place now. The economy is going to crash. There is going to be chaos. Economic martial law will be called. Banks will close. And chaos will ensue. The law is now in place for the military to come in and take over. Fascism has come to America. And if anyone thinks that I'm overblowing this, you may recall, for those of you who've been listening to Jeff Rentz for the years that I've been on, that when Obama got elected, I said that there was a high probability in 2009 of a bank holiday because of the disastrous economic conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody could say, yeah, but that didn't happen. As I was doing research about John the Don Corzine, I came across a video that's on YouTube. All you have to do is put in John Corzine and Joe Biden. June of 2009. Corzine's running for re-election of governor of New Jersey. And there's Vice President now, Joe Biden, former senator of Delaware, the loophole state where they allow the corporations to rape us.
Mm-hmm.
So now here's Biden, and he's campaigning for Corzine. And you got to look at this video. Even Biden has teleprompters.
Mm-hmm.
And he's telling the audience, you know, the day that we were sworn into office, remember this is June of 2009, they're sworn in January. The day that we were sworn into office, the top of our agenda, top of the list, was whether or not to call a bank holiday. Out of the words coming out of the mouth of Joe Biden.
There it is. Yeah.
And then Biden says, well, you know, we had economists, 30 of them, from right, left, and center. But who did we call? John Corzine for advice. Great.
Went right
anyway,
to the top.
The point that I want to make, and I want to drive this home, it should be headline news. Obama administration was prepared to call a bank holiday in 2009. Economic conditions are much worse now. There wasn't the European crisis that now, if you pick up the headline of today's Wall Street Journal, you will read that banks in Europe and countries in Europe that are in the EMU are now beginning to start their printing presses because they're concerned that the European Union might break up, and they're printing now their own money.
Right.
That's the word.
Yep. Yeah, that's the game. Absolutely correct. Now, this issue of 1867 is interesting. Obama has said he's going to veto it. And the reason that whoever wrote the article I read says that Obama is planning or contemplating, at least talking about vetoing it, is because if anybody is arrested by the military in this country as an enemy combatant, all right, or a belligerent of some kind, they are actually a POW. Now, all POWs are protected under the Geneva Conventions, technically, as Gerald knows and as most of you know, and they can't be tortured. So that might cause a little bit of an issue for the program of capturing Americans who are in the way or making noise and putting them in detention and torturing them because they will technically be prisoners of war. Now, how that will interface with the implementation and the enforcing of the Geneva Conventions, I don't know. But that may be one of the reasons why there's some talk about vetoing 1867 and its deadly unconstitutional Section 1031, which describes exactly what we've been talking about.